Good evening, everyone. Trying to get it positioned. How's everybody doing tonight? See, I hope I can figure out, make sure I can see comments right away this time. Last week I had a problem. Didn't realize I didn't see any of the comments till I got to the very end of the video. And so I made a second video. So if you look in the video section for block 2, there is a link for 2 parts of last week's block. So we'll see. A couple people are jumping on. You guys can let me make a comment so I can make sure I can see the comments this time. Last week I couldn't see the comments. Ooh, sorry. There we go. Is that better? So I hope you guys are all having a nice evening. So we're a third of the way done almost with our block challenge. We're on block 3, and this Thursday we'll be getting block 4. So that's exciting. Block 3 was it's probably the easiest block in the whole. Oh, cool! I can see comments. Thank you, Anita, Lynn. Last week I couldn't see comments until the very end. I'm like, oh, nobody commented. That's really weird. I must not have been able to see the comments. So cool. Just talking about block 3 today. Block 3 is probably the easiest because it has most just squares, you know. It only had a couple half square triangles, and lining them up's not that difficult too because, you know, a lot of them just intersect here, you know. So pretty easy peasy. I like block 3. I don't know. The people seem to be having less and less questions, which is cool. Means that you're getting the hang of this, and the challenge maybe is getting easier. I don't know. I guess the only tips I really have, I don't know, if you guys have any questions along the way, just let me know. I'll try to make sure to see all of them because I think I missed a few last week. So block 3, I kind of have a makeshift, I don't know, design wall. That's what you call it, right? I usually don't use a design wall. I just lay my blocks out on my cutting mat when I'm laying them out. I know a lot of people have been having problems. The only problem is like sewing your blocks together the wrong direction, like sewing this row up here to the wrong piece, you know. I really hate seam ripping. I'm sure you all hate seam ripping too. One tip that I have for that is lay your block out a lot. So you lay it out in the beginning, right? Pretend they're all just the single squares. When I'm going to bring it to the sewing machine, I fold it over, and I actually will put a pin in it on this side so that I know this side needs to be sewn. And then I'll do 2 at a time, and I'll do that side too. Once those are sewn, I'll lay them out on my mat again, all of them, so that they're all flat and I can see them in the order they need to be in again. Then I fold them over again and pin them in the right side that's supposed to be sewn. Because I really hate seam ripping. I know you guys do too. So, laying out your block a lot. Then when it's the rows again, lay it out, fold it over right there and then and pin it. And then go bring it to your machine. Instead of, I know some people don't use pins for just like squares and stuff. And if you do that, you might, okay, I'm just going to fold them over. I'll remember when I get to the machine, but I never remember, so I have to pin them. Karen, like the tip of the pins? Yeah, I just like fold it over and kind of line them up, you know, and then I pin it, but then when I get it to the machine, I like to line it up even more, you know, and make sure it's perfect, and then I'll sew it together. Another tip, I don't know, it helps me when I'm sewing, you know, when it's a half square triangle, and this side's thicker than this, right? Some of these are just, like, say, this one to this one. This one's solid, this one's has a thicker part on top and not on the bottom. it helps me to make my points line up better if I start sewing on the top this way up here, down, instead of, like, say, starting here, because then you're more likely, oh, this could, like, end up not lined up more. So that's why, I don't know if everybody else does that. I like to go through the thicker part first so I know that's secured in the right spot. And I go slowly over. Whenever you have multiple layers like that, go slowly over it. Like down here, you know, where we got this big, lots of layers, right? And you want them to line up. Just when you're sewing right here, just start going slower, just so that it doesn't, if you go fast, it's gonna move more, right? So if you go slow, it's gonna, you know, be a lot, stay in the spot you want it to stay, right? So Jennifer, you have problems pinning the half square triangles. Are you talking about when you're trying to sew them together, like in the strip? When I'm sewing them together in the strip, I like to put a pin, like, okay, so you see how, I don't know, can you see how those are butted up right next to each other? I will put a pin right there, and then one in between. That way I know that those are going to stay right there, and I know you're not supposed to sew over your pins. I do, so I get a lot of bent pins, but I want that to stay right there. So I'll just go really slowly over that. And a lot of times I won't hit my pin if I go really slowly. I know some people say pull the pin out, but I used to pull the pin out and then it wouldn't line up, you know. So if you keep that pin in there, it's going to stay lined up. Yeah, just put a pin right, see right here. I would put a pin right here. Yeah, you butt those two sections up together. You know, because this one's going this way and you'll have the other one going the other way. So you'll nest them up. I don't know if you can tell. They're just kind of, this side is iron this way and this side's iron this way. See? And so then you can butt them right up and then pin right there. I know that helps me. I don't know. Yeah, that's the right way. Get it all kind of situated. I don't know. Maybe try that next time. Use more pins. Use a lot of pins. Like if you're not a heavy pinner, maybe you need to use more pins, Jennifer, just to make it stay where you want it to stay. And just go slowly over the pins. Rhonda, you put, you know, question mark. I don't know if that's a question or not for me. So I don't know if you guys have any questions. I did a video for block 1 and two videos, a part 1 and a part 2 for block 2, because the first video I wasn't seeing comments. I don't know what I did. And so I had to do a second video and I was able to see the comments. So if you guys want to go back and look at those, the first video, I go over the half square triangle and some tips how to make your points line up on that. And to do that, you can go to, if you're on a computer or a laptop, click videos at the top of your main page, and then it'll be right in there. You'll see my big face. If you're on a mobile device, you might have to actually search Andrea Smith, and then you can find the videos. Yes, Jennifer, use your pins, lots of pins. Yeah, so I wanted to make block 3 a little easier, just so that, you know, I figure people would start joining. Like we have now, last week, I think at Monday, we only had 10,000. We just reached 10,000 in the group, and now we're at 10,700 in the group. And last Tuesday, I checked with Bailey, and we're at 19,700 participants. So that's how many people have actually joined. So I'm wondering, I didn't get a hold of her today, but I'm wondering if we're at 20,000. That would be crazy, right? That'd be pretty cool. So maybe I'll try checking with her tomorrow. Do I spray starch? No, I don't. I've read about it, and I've never done starch. I noticed I used to wash my fabric before I did my quilts, and now I don't. And so I think not washing them, that kind of makes them a little stiffer. And I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not cutting on the bias and then trying to sew. My half square triangles, it's one secure piece of fabric, and so you sew on that. So kind of, I don't need starch, I guess. What direction would you iron to make the square flat when completed? When I did this one, I think I tried to iron toward which was less bulky. So some people like to press their seams open, and then other people like to press toward the dark. When I do it in rows, right? And so, like this row, you can really press either way. This one, this is a little really kind of bulky here. So you could try either, if down feels, I think down feels a little less bulky. Press downward, just to make it a little less bulk. Or you could press it open. For some reason, I feel like if it's pressed open, it might not be as secure as if it's to the side. I don't know if that's just me being paranoid, or if that's like a truthful thing. I don't know. If it's just like more secure. Do I ever cut in the seam allowance for easing? So I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm a self-taught quilter, so never took a class. A lot of my knowledge has come from Google and from Pinterest and from Instagram. And so, do I cut in the seam allowance for easing? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I don't cut my seam. I sew it a 1/4 inch, and then that's it. I didn't really have to trim these at all. Sometimes, like, say, I don't think I trimmed this at all. Sometimes if you sew and then, like, this one comes out a little longer than this one, I'll measure it up with my ruler and make sure it's totally, the size. And if little bits come up, I'll trim those little bits off, if that's what you mean. Oh, Shannon, not much has happened. Not much. I'm just being a little bit messy here. But you can rewatch. This will be saved in the section, the video section. I guess if you guys have any questions, shout out your questions. I don't think this has a classical name. I know people earlier were asking about the first 2 blocks, if they had classical, traditional names. I don't really know if this one does. Maybe it's like a stair steps, or I don't know. Yeah, so since I'm a self-taught quilter, I'm not claiming that I know everything about quilting. So I know there's a lot more people probably more experienced in the group than I am. Yes, Anita. That makes sense. Like, if you're doing something like a circular, a curve, you'd have to snip a little bit. I've done that, like, on shirts, the shoulder, that's curved. Snip it. But straight lines, you shouldn't have to cut at all. I don't know. This block was pretty easy peasy, I think. Probably the easiest out of all of them. So you probably don't have a lot of questions. I know, some people were having questions, like somebody asked me how I got the name for my Snowy Day quilt sampler. I thought I'd share that with you. My business I named after my son, Cloud. My last name's Smith, so I wanted to have some unique names for my kids. And so when they asked me, oh, hey, you want to do a quilt sampler? I was looking at all the pictures on Instagram and all around, and people were having snow and snow. I'm like, ooh, snow. I'm like, oh, I can name this after my daughter. My daughter's name is Snow, so I thought I would do a Snowy Day quilt sampler and name that after my daughter, because my business is named after my son. So it's kind of like in honor of her. And so she'll get that forever, I guess. She's 3, and she likes to pick up my fabric piles and run away with them. I had some pre-cut for block 3, and she was trying to steal them. I'm like, no, I need those. You guys have any more questions? Do you square up the large blocks after they're made or once all they're finished? I haven't squared up mine yet. I would recommend waiting till the challenge is totally complete. You have all your blocks. Hopefully they will all measure the same. All mine, the very first quilt I made, measured the same. You know, when you sew together, sometimes if your fabric is a little stretchier, it might like butt out a little bit on the edges, and you just kind of want to straighten that up and do that at the end. And then, like, if there is a big difference, somebody was asking me, oh, one of my blocks is 15 inches and the rest are 16. I would suggest like doing an inch border and then trimming it down to 16, or even 3/4 of an inch border, and that would make up the difference, because it would be a 1/2 inch plus a 1/2 inch would make an inch, plus your seam allowance, which is a 1/4 inch on both sides. So you want to have each block similar so that when you do the sashing, they will all line up perfectly. So I'm going to wait till the end to square up my blocks. Fabric. It's hard for me to get the large piece squared. Okay, so Jennifer, when I cut my fabric, I fold it selvage to selvage. Do you know what selvage is? It's the end that has the words on it. So you take your fabric, my hands will be fabric, and you fold it selvage to selvage. And then what I do is I put it on my mat, and then the folded part, I line it up with like the bottom line on my long ruler. Make sure it's perfectly lined up on this line. And then you want to trim up your edge. And then I kind of flip it around to the other way, I guess. And you line up that edge you just cut with, I do it up for my ruler. I'll line it up on this 5 1/4 right here. So I have this on my cut edge and this on 5 1/4, and I'll just cut a whole strip. I don't really have a good setup I didn't grab any fabric, but maybe somehow I could show you that. Or you could look up on YouTube or Pinterest cutting fabric. I know sewspire.com. She has a blog. Her name's Andrea too. She has a blog, and she has like, she's been doing like vlogs, video blogs about basically the 101 of sewing, like cutting your fabric, and she has a bunch of beginner projects on there, and I remember she did one video about cutting your fabric. So, you know, just make sure it's lined up, and when I do it, you know, I press hard, and then cut, press hard, cut, press hard. I know some people have gotten, you can get little sticky things for the back of either like little sandpaper things or little sticky things for the back of your ruler, so your ruler doesn't slip around. I just haven't gotten around to going to the fabric store to get those, just because my fabric store doesn't open till 10 o'clock, and I like to get going at 9 after I drop my kid off at school. I like to do my errands and get home as soon as possible, but I need to get those. But yeah, I like to press hard in the middle, cut. Any more questions? I know this block was super easy, so I'm happy people, when we started the challenge, my phone was like beeping, 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 and I was trying to answer questions all the time, and I'd wake up the next morning with like 30, 40 notifications on my phone, but now it's like gone down to like 10, 15, so I'm noticing there's a lot less questions. Rubber shelf lining to stop So Gail says she uses rubber shelf lining, so you just put it on the back. Do you tape it or something? Or like glue it? That's cool. Haven't tried that. Yes, I've heard that, is it Omni Grip? Do they come with actual already sticky, Peggy? Is that what you're talking about? Omni Grip ones? Would you fold the fabric or cut it? So, Connie, it depends on how big it is. You can kind of see the grain of the fabric, okay? So, if you get your fabric like this, and you stretch it like this, it's not going to stretch. It's tight, right? And that means, I'm trying to remember, because this way's a little stretchy. This way's definitely stretchy. That's the bias. This is a little bit stretchy, and this is tight, right? So you have grains going this way, and you have grains going this way. So you want to try to line the ruler up with your grains going this way and this way. Because if it's off a little bit, you don't want to cut it on the bias, then your swell would be stretchy, so when you sew it, it might stretch a little bit. And so I like to put mine this way when I'm sewing and sew this way, the top, the non-stretchy way. I like to, I basically go like this. It's okay, this one, this one's not stretchy, this one's not stretchy, so I try to sew them in the same direction. I don't know if that's necessarily an important thing, but I like to do that. Creative Grids. I'll have to look that up. I've never heard of that brand. That's really cool. So it comes with little grips on it. Cool. Just drop the liner onto the fabric. The static. Oh, weird. So you put it in the middle. I would just I'd be afraid I'd cut the liner. Cool. I'll have to check out those rulers. See my little ghetto design wall. I don't use a design wall usually. I like to just use my flat surface because I don't really have anywhere to put a design wall in my house. Ruler magic. Apply thin layer, edge of ruler, light glue, let it dry. It dries. Oh, that's cool. So it's kind of like a little rubber edge that you can put on your ruler. That's cool. I would not suggest, Shannon, I wouldn't suggest squaring up a block more than one block at a time. Because, so when you are squaring up your block, ooh, that's not a good, okay, right here. So when you're squaring up your block, you see how that has a 1/4 of an inch? We want to keep that 1/4 of an inch there because when you sew it to your sashing, that's going to fold in and you're going to want to see your points. So if you're blindly squaring up your block, you might cut off your points and that would not be good. That I wouldn't suggest that. Look at them all, make sure you got that 1/4 inch on the edges so your points, you can still see your points and you don't chop them off. Got any more questions? I know it's really late for a lot of you around the world. It's almost 9 here. It's 8:50. Any last questions? I know this block was pretty easy, so, it wasn't tricky. And now that you guys are all half square triangle pros, knowing how to cut them and make your points line up better, which, I've been sewing for a while, probably I think it was 20 some years, quilting for about 20. I try to line my point, I try to, strive for perfection, but, they're not perfectly perfect, they look good enough, I think. I'm not going to stress out, say, I think it wasn't this one, my other block, it didn't line up, I'm so I undid it one time. I'm only going to seam rip something one time and then sew it back together, and if it isn't perfect, I think it's good enough because I don't like seam ripping. Earlier, somebody asked about when to start sewing. Are you saying sewing blocks together? I guess you could start putting sashing on if you wanted, but I would recommend waiting until you have all your blocks done so you can, square them up and make sure they're all the same size before you start putting your sashing on, because you might start putting sashing on and then some might be a tiny bit smaller, or I don't know. And then I've seen like some people have already completed their quilts by working ahead and just looking at my pattern, and they're doing all sorts of sashing. So you might not want to go with my recommended sashing. Week 10, we're going to have the quilt assembly, and so I'm going to give the sashing recommendation to make it look like the picture on the front of the pattern. But you can do double sashing. You can do whatever you want, you know, put cornerstones, you know, make it personalized to you. It's your quilt and you want it to be unique for you. Is this a good quilt for a quilt as you go? I guess I've seen a few people do quilt as you go. I've never done a quilt as you go. I'm really interested now that I've seen a lot of people doing it. Since it's just one block at a time, I don't see why not. You could do quilts as you go and then sew them up together. Sashing scares you, Shannon. When week 10 comes, I'm gonna do a video for that too, because I know that it might be easier because my pattern does the sashing on the sides of the blocks, and then I have you do long sashings across the center. It might be easier for you to do, you know, sashing on the sides, and then, you know, do the cornerstone so that your sashings are all only 16.5 inches long instead of the long 56-inch sashing, you know. That might be easier. Sashing, you know, I don't typically do a lot of sashing in my quilts, but I've noticed other people do, and so I thought, oh, I'll add that. But I think it'll be easy by week 10, you know, you'd be a quilter pro. Sashing will be no problem. Anybody have any more questions? I don't have much to talk about tonight. Other than, you know, I'm so excited that this group is getting so big. It's almost 11,000 people in the group. So, like, scrolling through all the blocks takes a long time, but it's cool seeing everyone's blocks. I love sashing and with cornerstones. Yeah, I saw a couple people do the sashing with the cornerstones, and I'm like, ooh, I'm designing a quilt right now, a new quilt pattern, and so I did the sashing with the cornerstones. I'm like, that looks really cool. My favorite, so I used to use polyester a lot, but, and then I started reading about cotton, and I switched to cotton because I like the texture better. It feels denser, and, like, I have my first quilt that I made when I was 17. I have it, and it barely feels like there's any batting in it anymore. Cotton, I think, lasts longer and holds up longer, especially, I read, the closer you quilt together, like, it lasts longer. So if you're donating your quilt to a baby in a hospital, like, you can sign up for things where you donate baby quilts. They want the quilting to be at least an inch apart, because if it's an inch or smaller, it'll hold up better through lots of washing. And I know my kids spit up a lot, so I had to wash their quilts a lot. So the closer together, it's going to last longer. And cotton, I like warm and white. I used to use warm and natural a lot, but then I guess I used to quilt more darker colors. When I started quilting more with white, you could kind of see the natural specks through it, because it has brown specks in it, the natural one, warm and natural. So I've been using the warm and white, and it's just like solid white cotton. I really like it. I think I kind of missed something. When you say cornerstones, you mean little squares. Yes, Caroline. So you would have, boom, the sashing would be here, and then you would have little squares in each corner, which is kind of cool because you don't have to worry about making a huge long strip, and you could just do those little, you know, sash here. The sashing on these two would have the corners on them. It would kind of make it a little easier, I think. It'd be like basically a bigger block that you would sew to another block. That's a great idea, Jeanette. Yeah, if you don't have enough fabric for the sashing, cornerstones will kind of help out with that. Or if you're like, yeah, using a scrappy sashing, cornerstones would help with that too. I'm glad you guys are all having fun in this group and having a fun time making this quilt. It makes me really happy. A lot of the comments in the group, I'm really thankful for all you guys joining, because if you guys didn't join, I'd be here talking to myself, which would be very sad. Oh, you tried the friendship star sashing. I saw someone in the group. Was that you that has the star sashing on the quilt already? I think that looks really cool. Yeah, so Thursday, keep an eye out for in your inbox. I'm assuming they're going to send it out at 11 a.m. Central Time again. And then as soon as it is sent out in the email, Justin will post it in the pin post in the Facebook group, which basically if you log in on a computer, it'll just show up the first thing in the group. If you're on a mobile device, you have to click the little pin to find the pin post. And then after I drop my son off at school, I usually come home and I'll post it to the group with the link, and then I'll post it on my personal Facebook page too. I talk to myself anyways. Cindy talks to herself. I'm sorry, Cindy, I talk to myself all the time. Actually, with having children, it feels like I talk to myself a lot because they don't listen to me. It's like, I don't think they hear the words coming out of my mouth most of the time. Thank you, Rebecca. I'm glad you guys are having fun. This is a lot of fun for me, too. It's like, you know, you might draw. Basically, when I start a quilt pattern, I just get my paper out and I draw it. And it's really cool to draw something out on paper, and then I make it. And then now I'm seeing thousands and thousands and thousands of people make that same exact design that I drew out on paper like 2 months ago, which is really cool. No, my problem... Oh, that went by fast. My problem is limiting myself to only... Yes, I know. Me too. Donna, I have So I was only going to do one quilt with you guys, but then I decided I had to do a second one so that I could use it as a demo with these videos. And so I have 2 of those going, and then I have a tester quilt that I have a top of, and then I have whenever I make a pattern, I just do a tester top, and I end up not finishing the whole quilt. I'll do a tester baby and a tester throw. I finish the baby, but I don't finish the throw, so I got 4 throw quilts I need to finish. Which way do you press the seams on the sashing? I think it would probably be easier to press toward the sashing, because the sashing would create less bulk. Because if you're going to press toward this, that's going to be bulky, but the sashing is just totally flat. So if you press toward the sashing, there'd be less bulk. Which way, let's see. Joelle, my first quilt was, I cut all the squares with scissors, and I sewed it by hand. I think I was 12. My mom wouldn't let me use her sewing machine. She was afraid I was going to break it. And so I would just sit there watching TV, sewing my quilt together. And then finally she felt bad. She saw me doing that, and she's like, okay, you can sew the blocks together on my machine. Ever since, I've just done a machine. I know. I'm so scared for my little kids to become teenagers. I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, and so they're okay. My little boy is a little sweetheart, but my little girl has a little attitude. She's like, I don't know. I think she feels like she's a teenager. She says she's an adult already, and she's only 3. Oh my goodness, Donna, 6 quilts going. Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't even know, because then I have my quilt tops, and then I have a table runner and placemats that I need to finish, and then I have a big pile of pot holders that I need to finish. I think I have a little bit of crafting ADD. That's what I call it. I get to a certain point, like the basting point of the quilt, and then I'm like, okay, I want to cut into new fabric, because that's the fun part, cutting into the fabric, putting the puzzle together, and then the basting is my very least favorite. And so when I get to the basting, sometimes like a couple weeks will go by, and then I'm like, oh, I really should finish that. Oh my goodness, Cindy. A king-size quilt hand quilted. That would take forever. I bet that's amazing. Connie, so you have issues with your rotary blader going to the side. Oh, I didn't grab mine. So my rotary blade, I'm not sure what kind you have. Mine has a little screw, like, so this is my rotary blade, right? It's over on my desk. It has a little screw, and I noticed the screw gets loosened, and so the blade gets a little wobbly. So before I cut any fabric, I always make sure to tighten down that screw. So if yours is like that, because I got mine, I think it's a Fiskar, you got to tighten that screw to make sure it's nice and tight, and then it won't veer off. So maybe you're having the same problem. Jennifer, yes, I do make my own binding. Basically, you just, in the quilt assembly, I have a PDF for quilt assembly, and basically you do 2.5-inch strips. That's what the pattern calls for. Most people do 2.5, some people do 2.25-inch strips, and then I'm updating my quilt assembly so it has more picture diagrams for you guys on how to create your binding and how to sew it together and how to sew it on your quilt. I've never bought binding. I think it's better to do, make your own, then it'll match the quilt perfectly. So once we get to there, there'll be more instructions how to make your binding. I like to go a little bigger just because I like a big binding. So I do actually 2 3/4-inch strips, but the pattern calls for 2.5 because that's the norm, I think. Does anybody else have any more questions? I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to tell you. Oh, I know. So, I don't know if anyone out there are pattern testers or pattern writers. So if you are a pattern writer, I know a lot of people are interested in doing another challenge, and I know National Quilters Circle wants to do more challenges. So if you are a pattern writer and you like to draw out patterns and you have a program on your computer that you can draw up a pattern, send a little message to National Quilters Circle on their Facebook and say, hey, I'd like to write a pattern for a challenge. They'd really love that. They like, finding new talent, and, it's a good way to get your name out there to a lot of quilters if you like to make patterns. I'm just meeting all of you thousands of people is really cool for me, and to get you guys to have you guys making my patterns is really cool. I always make my binding too. I do, yeah, Carolyn, you do 2.5. So I think that's the norm. I don't know. I do 2 3/4 because I guess I'm a paranoid person. I don't know. But when I sew my binding on, I do a little bit larger than a 1/4 inch. I like to make my front of my binding a little tiny bit bigger. So like I'll line it up to my walking foot, which is a little bit bigger than a 1/4 inch. And so that way to get it to wrap around to the back, 2 3/4 seems perfect for me. And also, I do a lot of pot holders, and with the pot holders, since you have that Insula Bright in there, which makes it a thicker batting, I actually do a 3-inch binding for those because I want it to wrap around fully, and I do a little bit thicker on the front too. I have only made one and bought binding, but would rather make... Yeah, Jennifer, try it out. It's really not that hard to make the binding, and I'm going to do like... I'll have diagrams, not photo, but like how I have diagrams on the pattern. I'm making diagrams for how to make your binding, and so it'll be a cinch. You can do it. I believe in you. Yeah, I know most people do. Yeah, Peggy does 2 1/4. I don't know. I guess I've always been doing a little bit larger binding, and I just kind of like the way it looks. But it's the norm. Some people like tiny bindings, and I've seen some people do even 2-inch binding, and I'm just like worried, am I going to get that all the way? I want to make sure it goes to the back and you don't see the stitching, you know, because I like to hand bind mine. I don't machine bind. I'll do the machine on the front, but I like to hand bind it on the back. What brand sewing machine do you use? Just curious. So Vicki, I have a Janome heavy duty. So I don't know if you guys read National Quilters Circle did a little interview with me. It's on their blog, and they asked me about that, what sewing machine I use. I use a Janome heavy duty because, so when I got married almost 15 years ago, my sister gave me a sewing machine as a gift, and it was a mechanical one. And so I've had that for about 13 years, and then I just recently bought this Janome heavy duty, and it's a mechanical as well. I was just kind of really nervous to buy a computerized. When I was a kid, my mom had a computerized, and it kept breaking down all the time, and I was just worried about that. I don't know, do you guys like your computerized ones? I really want to, I think the next machine I buy, I want to get one with a large throat and like specified for quilting, you know, because the heavy duty's nice. It goes through the quilting like the 3 layers awesomely, but I think it would be nice to have something with a larger throat and something that's like specialized in quilting. I just don't want to have to go get it serviced all the time. I don't want it to break down all the time. I'm missing things. Yeah, Jennifer, I've never tried the machine binding. I think I did once because I had a baby shower I had to go to the next day, and hand binding usually takes me a long time, especially with kids. I get interrupted a lot, and like a baby one could take me like a couple hours, you know. I like Janome. It's a good brand. Before the Janome, I had a white machine, and I went to go get a replacement part, and I guess they don't make whites anymore. My sister bought it at Joann's, like, for a wedding present, and I bought her one because we used to use our mom's machine when we lived at home, and so I had that one for 13 years, and I'm like, do I go to a mechanical or a computerized? Do you guys like computerized? Maybe I'll try one. I'm just like nervous. I don't want to have to get it serviced all the time and then be without my machine. I need to learn paper piecing. That would be cool too. Paper piecing, foundation. I know that, oh my goodness, what is it called? I'll have to look her up, but, she has this really cute, it's like pen, it starts with a P, she's on Instagram, pen, something, patterns, she has this, like, snail shell, really cute one, patterned piecing, maybe I'll look her up, and then I'll reply to your comment after the video's over. So you have a Janome 89,000 Memory Craft Special Edition. You love it. Carol, I'm just like nervous to have, do you have to get it serviced a lot? Or is it okay? Maybe because my mom had like a Singer and maybe that's why it broke down, and maybe Singers are just really touchy. She was scared of me using it. Because, you know, like a 12-year-old kid might not be as gentle with the machine as you do. Does the batting reach under the binding? Yes. So your batting is going to go... Basically, when you quilt a quilt, you put your backing down, then your batting, and you want that to be at least 4 inches larger than your quilt. So your batting needs to be bigger than your quilt. You quilt it, and then you trim it up. So it's going to go all the way to the edge of your quilt. And so, yeah, the batting will wrap over that binding. The binding will wrap over the batting, the backing, and the front. Connie? I have a computerized machine and Janome Magnolia. I almost bought the Janome Magnolia because I saw a lot of good reviews about it. But then I'm like, oh, but it's computerized. Maybe I need to go with mechanical. I think I'm gonna have to try one. Maybe the next time I'll get a Janome computerized one. Kathy, it's okay that you're late. This is going to be saved to the group, and you can access the videos by clicking at the top of the group, videos. If you're on a mobile device, you can just search for Andrea Smith, and it'll show up. So only just cleaning. So maybe it was just because my mom had a touchy singer and that's why she had problems with it. That was like, you know, I was 12 a long time ago. I'm going to be 35 this month. So, you know, I started sewing when I was like 10, hand sewing, and then started using the machine when I was 11, 12. So I'm sure machines are a lot better than they used to be. I'll have to. Next time, I just bought this one, I guess a year ago, my Janome. So I think I'll probably have to wait. I can't buy another machine quite yet. Maybe if my husband goes and buys like a toy for him, I'll go, oh, maybe I could buy a new machine too. Maggie's. I've never heard of a Maggie machine. Oh, Maggie is your Magnolia. The Magnolia are pretty cheap now. Operation. Yeah, the Magnolia is not, it wasn't like a specialized quilting, but it looked like a really nice machine, and I saw a lot of good reviews. The Memoricraft. I've seen a lot of people use that Memoricraft, Caroline, and I've been kind of like curious about it, and so I'm like thinking maybe if I can like, because right now I just sew on my kitchen dining room table because I have 2 kids and we only have a 3-bedroom house, and then our family room is full of family stuff. So I'm trying to make like a little room, like put a desk in the family room so I can have all my stuff set up in there. I have the Caroline, I have the Janome HD 1000. So it's, I think it was the cheaper one of the 2 of HDs. It's heavy duty, and I kind of wanted it because I do make a lot of pot holders, and that's thick. And so I wanted to make sure it went through all the layers, and the quilting, it goes through all the layers like butter. Oh, a Baby Lock, Yenny. So yeah, I've seen a lot of good reviews about Baby Lock, Janome, and Bernina. Is that? And I kind of get like I don't know what's the word, like, ooh, the pretty ones. You know, like how the there's a new cotton and steel one, and then there's a Tula Pink Bernina. I'm like, ooh, that's so pretty. I want that one. But then I'm like, oh, but does that make it, it probably doesn't make it any better that it's all pretty like that, but I think it's really cool. And now I'm just like going on tangents. So is there any questions? Sorry. You guys are like all staying up way past your bedtime, I'm sure. Oh, you pay more for the Bernina. So maybe I just get like a Janome and then I'll paint flowers on it. Or get some like flower stickers. Because I know the Bernina, I think that's the one that comes out like in the cotton and steel and the Tula Pink and stuff. Yeah, Baby Lock and Bernina are expensive. Oh my goodness, Cindy, you have to work till 1:30. My husband's out working right now because he's an electrician and he is working at a bank tonight. The bank is closed at night but open during the day, so my house is very quiet. The kids are in bed, my husband's at work, so but he'll probably be home, I'm not sure when, after he gets his electrical stuff done. Yeah, so I'm glad you guys are having fun. I'm having fun with this too, and we get a big group together. If you guys ever have questions, you can, I've noticed some people tag me if they have questions. Yeah, you can tag me. And then also, I don't know if you guys have noticed Deborah Davis. She's done 3 blog posts. She did one for block one, a blog post for block 2, and she just released a blog post for block 3, and she goes through each steps of each block with pictures that describe it, and, you know, that makes it really easy for visual people, because I know some people are like, I read this and I don't understand it, and visual pictures are good. Oh, I'm sorry, Gail. You're probably, like, so tired, huh? You're going to bed? Sorry. I know. I wish I could start earlier. It's just, like, my kids didn't want to go to sleep tonight, too, so I was on here a little late because of we have daylight savings now, and so we're an hour later, so they're like, we woke up early, but we don't want to go to bed yet. We want to go to bed at 9. I'm like, no, go to bed. Shannon, I'm sure singers are a lot better than when I was a child, because that was, 20 years ago, that my mom didn't want me to touch her singer. So I'm sure yours is a lot better than hers was. I'm not sure what she has now. I know, right? Daylight savings is horrible. Oh, last night I tried to get them to bed at 8 and they didn't go to bed till like 9:20. And I was like, oh my goodness. But then they still woke up at 7 o'clock this morning. I'm like, why aren't you going to bed now? Because you woke up early today. So we'll see. Hopefully tomorrow goes better. And by next Monday, they'll be in bed at 8 and I won't have to worry about it. I plan on doing every Monday a little check-in with you guys to see, if you have any questions about the block. And so, I know my mom's left-handed too. I'm not left, I'm right-handed. Oh my goodness, up at 5? Oh, Jennifer, that's crazy. My son usually gets up at 7 to go to school, but this morning he was feeling sick, so he didn't go to school, so. But then he didn't want to go to sleep. I'm like, what's going on tonight? Yeah, Karen, that's what I was wondering, like, if singers are, like, good or bad, or. Because there was a singer heavy-duty mechanical one that I was looking at. But, I'm wondering if I used to do less quilting and more, like, pot holders and clothing. And so I'm wondering if a computerized one would be better if I did, like, get a specialty quilting machine. I'd probably be better off. I can go with. Ooh, Elna, Connie? So it's not even electric. Is it like a pedal machine? That's cool. I know my grandma had a pedal machine, but I don't think she actually used it. I think she just had it as decoration. I wonder if she still has it. I should check. That would be cool to have. So, you guys have any more questions? You guys excited about next week? Or this Thursday, actually. This Thursday. Check your emails for that new block, and if you don't see it right away, it takes a couple minutes. It'll be out at 11 a.m. Central Time, and then it'll be in Facebook too. Last week, somebody caught it as soon as she had posted it, and we were still reviewing it, and so the wrong PDF was posted, but she got it fixed right away, and just give us a few minutes, and then it'll be up. We promise. We're not going to forget about you guys. Oh, it's not computerized. Okay, Connie. Because I'm like, ooh, pedal one. Because I know some people have the old pedal ones, but yeah, I like my heavy duty. Mine's a heavy duty Janome, and it's mechanical. And it seems I quilt with it all the time. Oh. 420 quilting and heavy duty Janome. Really? I should check that out because I want something that's, I feel like heavy duty means that it's going to last a long time. The last one was a heavy duty and it lasted 13 years, and I'd rather spend my money on lots and lots and lots of fabric than having to buy a new machine every 2-3 years, My grandma... Oh, Gil, yours mom had a paddle one? I don't know if my grandma actually used it. I wonder if she did. I just remember when I was a kid, she had the paddle one. It's really cool. All right, so it is 9:20 here. I don't know. You guys probably want to go to bed, but you're just sticking around with me because I'm babbling on. I know I've been getting a lot of Facebook friend requests. I like to keep my personal Facebook to just my family, my personal friends. So I've been deleting those requests. I don't know if they're by accident, because I know touch screens, sometimes you accidentally friend somebody and you don't mean to. But if you guys can feel free to follow my, I do have a Facebook page for Happy Creations, and I'll leave the link in the comments or put it up in the description if you guys want to follow me. And then in the future, I'll be looking for some pattern testers, and if you guys are interested, I I usually do a little shout out on my Facebook page saying, hey, does anybody want to test my pattern? And then, hey, you get a free pattern. Might not be perfect pattern, but you get a free pattern and you get to test it out before anybody else does. So that's, you know, facebook.com shop Happy Cloud Creations. I'll leave that in the description. So I don't know if there's anything else you guys have questions about. I think we're good. I think I'll see you guys next Monday, huh? Next block has a lot more half square triangles. I think it has a lot, actually. But you guys are pros at that, and you guys, you know, it's fun. Good night, good night. So I will see you guys next Monday, and I'm excited to see everybody's new blocks after you guys get your pattern on Thursday. So good night. Bye-bye.